Hey, Kyle is wonderful here again with the flagship podcast, the Wonderful Wrestling Podcast for July 1st, 2022. And full disclosure, it's only going to be July in 20 minutes. I'm starting this early, so this is coming out early on Friday morning. I try to get this out. I don't have a set time yet, but it comes out anytime on Friday. So this is good enough for me. It's a good. I hope you all are having a good celebrating the start of summer. Here's to you. And we got a lot to cover tonight. So let's get into it right away with some news. But before we get to the news, we got to talk about what happened Sunday. Man, Sunday was just like the best. Sunday at Forbidden Door, sure, it was cross branded between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, two companies I love, but it was just a full, it was more than that. It was NXT Black and Gold, it was old TNA / Impact, it was everything we love about professional wrestling. There was Dragon Gate guys and Noah guys and all kinds of, unfortunately, not the AAA guys, but you know what I mean? Like everything came together for a celebration of wrestling, and it was just amazing to see that whole card was just. It might be hyperbole to say it was like the greatest event to watch of all time, but man, just talk about a 4 hour card with I think it was 5 hours if you count the pre-show, where it just every single match was great, great stuff after great stuff. So just a true celebration of professional wrestling and all the stuff we always dreamed of, all us nerdy wrestling fans that watched like Shakara and just all that stuff, and going all the way back to the people even older than me. I'm 36, but they were trading tapes with the Japanese so they can watch Japanese stuff like all Japan back in the day and stuff like that. So just everything kind of came together in Chicago. I wish I could have been there. It's only about a 5 hour drive from Detroit to Chicago. Man, I wish I could have been there. But I wasn't even able to attend the event here in Detroit. I wish I could have been there as well because Blood and Guts for AEW just 3 days after Forbidden Door was just as amazing. And that was crazy. That Blood and Guts match lasted almost an hour and it really never let down. Just high intensity throughout that match. So we'll get into some of it, but you can catch this is the flagship podcast, but I review every single other wrestling show individually so that everybody can find which show they like easier. But I do all the WWE, AEW, New Japan, MLW, NWA, Impact, NXT, NXT UK, everything. I do all that. The if I won't be adding anything until I add Stardom. Shout out to Stardom. It sounded like they had a really good week. Stardom is owned by the same people as New Japan, but they weren't able to send any of their talent over to wrestle at Forbidden Door. They had their own pay-per-view, as well as I heard that a lot of those Joshi wrestlers don't have visas to come to America as of right now. So no Stardom representation at Forbidden Door, but Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm did throw it down. One of the best women's matches in AEW, and one of by far the loudest matches in women's matches from a crowd perspective. They were the loudest for that match than I've heard in a long time. So special shout out to Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa did retain her title, and she came out looking like a star with another great looking entrance outfit. So great stuff all around. She will eventually lose to Jade Cargill, however. Jade Cargill will do the full Goldberg run with having both titles. They'll probably have Jade drop the TBS title once she wins both, but I just assume Jade is going to go from being undefeated TBS champion to just winning the title. So we'll see. Maybe Thunder Rosa will lose it in a 3-way or a 4-way match later on and won't have to lose to Jade, and maybe she can come back and beat Jade straight up, and that'll be the person who wins the streak. Well, we don't know where everything can go, so don't if you're a Thunder Rosa fan, don't get too sad about that. But anyway, going back to Stardom, it really looked like they had a great event, and I do follow Stardom as much as on Twitter, and I follow results and look at a couple highlights and here and there, but I still don't know like all the pronunciations of all the people, and um I feel like if I ever got into Stardom, that I wanted to start kind of towards the beginning, like 10 years ago, and then it's becoming too big of a deal where um I just feel like I can't just jump in. It's too much to handle, but maybe I could. So I think it's only like it's less than $7 a month. So I could throw down the $7 and check it out. But I just like I can't start reviewing it right when I start watching it. But special shout out. Looked like they had a couple great events over the week, and we will go through the week that was in wrestling. I brought up all the cage match, the database of all the matches, so we will go through that at a point. I figured we'd add that to the flagship podcast here, um, just to kind of almost be like a sports center of the wrestling for the week, without the highlights, unfortunately, due to copyright issues. But let's get into it. Let me get another sip, and we'll get into some news. But I hope you all are having a good times at the start of your summers. I got a busy day ahead of me tomorrow as far as covering all these reviews. Tomorrow we've got MLW, NWA, or I guess I could wait till Saturday to do. I combined Power and USA into one review, since like the two shows combined only add up to like an hour and a half of watching. So I figured, I'll add them together because USA is super short. But I've been really impressed with NWA. I really like what I've seen out of Camille, out of the women's division, and I've also liked how NWA has a true like super heavyweight division, like heavyweights that are like legit 280 and above. So really good stuff. I've liked that, and I've really liked what I've seen on the MLW this last month or so. And special shout out to NXT UK. Just every single episode they have is a true banger. They just throw down great matches. NXT 2.0, we know they're not for like great matches. That's for storylines and whatnot, and developing characters. So I've been a little down on them the last couple of weeks, but we'll see where that goes. They got a big event, 4 titles on the line at Great American Bash coming up this Tuesday, and of course we've got Money in the Bank Saturday, tomorrow. If you're listening to this on Friday, um, true. It looks like a pretty good one, even though they got moved from the stadium show to a um smaller venue, like a where the ice hockey team plays, but still no Roman, no titles on the line whatsoever on the men's side, but both women's titles are on the line. And unfortunately, both kind of seem like we know who's going to win those matches. But here's the deal: you have the women's title, or I mean, you have the women's Money in the Bank match first. So you start Money in the Bank pay per view with the women's match, which let me see if I can off. I take notes on every single review I do, but I try to specifically take no notes for this flagship podcast, the weekly podcast, Wonderful Wrestling Podcast. Tell your friends. But let's see. So you start Money in the Bank with the women's ladder match for the briefcase, and it is in that match is Liv Morgan, Alexa Bliss, uh, Bianca Belair is not the one I meant to say. Becky Lynch. So Liv, Alexa, Becky, Asuka, Raquel, Lacey Evans, and I think I'm missing one. Shotzi. Shotzi made it, thankfully. If it was me, Shotzi's winning that. If it was me, Shotzi wins that and walks out with Ronda's title. That's how I booked the night. I doubt that will happen. I'm sure they will probably give it to Lacey Evans, which I do not want to see whatsoever. But you got to remember it's on the 4th of July weekend, so I assume WWE is just gonna have. Oh, it's the shock value. See, it wasn't Becky Lynch like you all thought. It's Lacey Evans, and we'll still get that Becky Lynch versus Bianca match. But in the meantime, Lacey Evans will win the title, and I don't know if they'll have her win it that night. But one of the things, like, so you start Money in the Bank pay-per-view with the women's match, and then you have two title matches, and yes, both Bianca versus Carmella and Ronda versus Natty doesn't really sound like great on paper, but what you do get out of that is the Money in the Bank briefcase is already done. Now, what a lot of people are saying are, I think it's only what Carmella's the only one that ever had the briefcase past the day or something like that. Ridiculous. Ever since they had the women's side in 2018. But I think when Carmella was walking around with the briefcase with James Ellsworth, that was the only. I might be wrong on that. It sounds weird, but someone said I heard that somewhere. But anyway, you might want to not do another same night cash in with the women, but you could here. And but you also got to remember this show is kind of only a setup show for SummerSlam, so there's probably not a lot of money right now because they haven't invested in even Lacey Evans. If they wanted to push her, I don't think Lacey Evans is a star per se, and they kind of look like they want to make Lacey Evans a babyface, so that probably wouldn't work unless you turn Ronda heel. So I guess that leads me to believe that, mm, or maybe, just maybe, Becky then does, like, everybody thinks Becky's gonna win the briefcase, and she does. Maybe Becky does beat Bianca at some point during that Carmella match or after the match, or you know what I mean, like Seth Rollins did. And then her and her husband, Seth Rollins, can both be like, so maybe she'll do a triple threat, although it's not at WrestleMania, so it's nowhere near. So they probably wouldn't do that. They would probably, ooh, what if she holds on to it all the way to WrestleMania? Maybe that's a possibility, but I doubt it. I think maybe now that I'm thinking it through, Becky wins the briefcase and wins the title by the end of the night, and then Bianca might win it back at SummerSlam to avenge the SummerSlam from before, and then it could be like, yeah, Bianca lost the title, but she lost it in, like, through nefarious means, through a cash-in briefcase and a sneak attack or whatever after I just had a match against Carmella. So I think maybe Bianca beats Carmella, and then we get a sneak attack, maybe even a chair or something, and Becky cashes in, wins the title, but maybe Bianca wins the title right back at SummerSlam. So maybe, now that I'm thinking it through, that could be the deal. I was a little scared that WWE were going to give the briefcase to Lacey Evans, but um just because the whole 4th of July weekend, and they're pushing her as the next John Cena, just the female version. So maybe, but those are the only two I can really see winning. Like, everybody, I know Liv has her fans. I don't see that happening, but I know her fans would have a meltdown if she did. Alexa right now, I mean, do even Alexa's hardcore fans like what she's doing? Even they have to be bored. Either give me the weird evil Bray Wyatt version, or give me the um goddess version. I'm pretty sure that's what. I don't know any hardcore Alexa Bliss fans, but just like the hardcore Live fans online, you see them everywhere. And I wonder if they're just like fed up with this. They have to be fed up because this version of Alexa Bliss is so boring. And the only thing we know, that we had to sit through, what, 5 weeks of her therapy sessions, all for the therapist to say, well, I sewed up your doll's old stuffing into this new skin, and make sure to buy it on www.shop.com. So that whole thing led us to him also saying, that therapist, remember, at the end said, as long as you have Lily near you, you'll be fine. So then, when was the next time we saw Alexa Bliss wrestle? It was at Saudi Arabia in the Elimination Chamber. She did not have Lily with her, and she was evil, like the Evil Is Mine music and the black dress and all that. But then there was no Lily. So maybe Lily couldn't get through customs or whatever, and it changed Alexa to evil, which she didn't help her win the match. She jobbed out in that match hard. But anyway, ever since then, there was like a giant break. So maybe Alexa like had to find Lily, or who knows? We didn't hear from Alexa for a long time. And then all of a sudden, Alexa comes back. She's got this new shut up, stand up, shut up music, which is like kind of cringe. And then like she has no personality. So we don't get the evil is mine music. We don't get the goddess music. We don't get the goddess gimmick. We don't get the evil is mine gimmick. We get this bland, non descript, boring version of Alexa, which I'm assuming has to change, right? You can't stay this, but it's already been too long. How long has it been? It's been 2 months that we've had this boring version of Alexa. So really, like, you need to think about what you're gonna do with Alexa because she has a ton of fans, and she proved, if you remember on Raw, she proved that she can out talk Liv by like 5 times the amount. Liv sounded terrible. I'm sorry for all you Liv fans. And yeah, Liv does try hard, and she seems to love the business and all that. Her promos are terrible, and her wrestling is kind of average. Alexa's wrestling is just as average, maybe even Liv's little bit better of a wrestler, but they're both kind of average in my opinion. But where Alexa does do it is in the character work and the promo work. The character work and promo work from Liv, in my opinion, is god awful. And I hope she doesn't win the briefcase. I'd rather her win it than Lacey, that's for sure. But I would rather Alexa over Liv. And then maybe we can finally start this Alexa story where are you going to be the goddess? Like by saying the goddess gimmick is just like a cocky, full of herself kind of jock almost. Remember, she was like a cheerleader kind of jock. So like it's a cocky mean girl type deal. Remember with the whole like Nia Jax stuff and stuff like that. And then the evil is mine is just like Bray Wyatt, but the what was it? The Sheen. I think that was a legitimate thing in WWE 2K 22. They had to unwrite all of the stories involving the Fiend, and one of them involved there was going to be a female Sheen. Just like remember, I've never hated anything more than you remember when I don't know if it was around when she debuted or maybe a little bit after, but it was Ember Moon Athena when she was in NXT as Ember Moon, and they were saying calling her the Sheenam. Like, can can you get more cringe than like putting the word she in front of something like some other word to create a new word? So just a little bit there, but hopefully like maybe that's a possibility. Alexa wins the briefcase and then they finally have to decide what they're going to do with the stupid story because she is beyond boring right now. And Raquel, I mean, Raquel was great in NXT. Really, she was great in NXT. And then slowly but surely they've softened her, all her sharp edges that made her great and made her stand out and made her who she was. They've softened all her sharp edges, highlighting her hair, making her smile more, and changing her makeup and just making her more like beautified or whatever. And then like sure, the wrestling is kind of the same, but now the presentation has gone from like, Rhea Ripley stands out because sure, like Rhea Ripley still like there's people that'll tell you that's the hottest person in WWE is Rhea Ripley because they like that kind of, and I'm not gonna say that, and I'm not here to say like hotness has anything to do with anything. It's just about looks. Like Raquel had that look just like Rhea did, and there's not a lot of women with that look. Like you got your kind of small blondes where Liv and Alexa fall into that category, and then you've got your different races and stuff. But as far as like if you just want to have like look on big muscles and all that, like Rhea Ripley and Raquel were gonna be the two standouts, and they were gonna be on separate shows, and maybe that's a big Survivor Series champion versus champion matchup we could have built up in the future. But now they're already trying to soften the edges on Raquel like hardcore, and I don't know why. So that's kind of been a bust in my opinion. And like I said at the beginning of this segment, if it's me booking, I book Shotzi to win the title. I've explained this before, but if you didn't hear it, I have Shotzi win the briefcase. I have Shotzi cash in on Ronda, who's all beaten up from the Natty match. And then Shotzi defends the title successfully by kind of running away and doing a ton of heel tactics at SummerSlam against Ronda. And then at some point before Clash at the Castle, then Ronda convinces Shotzi, like, stop being I was gonna say some swear words, but stop being like a scaredy cat, a coward, and running away and trying all these heel tactics. Why don't you just believe in your abilities and stand up to me and try your best? So we then go into Clash at the Castle. Shotzi kind of is basically a face. She did a face turn, and she's just gonna wrestle straight up against Ronda. Then you have Ronda lose that match straight up to Shotzi. Shotzi fights hard and fights back and fights through all the adversity and wins the match, and everybody's cheering, and Ronda raises Shotzi's hands at the end of Clash at the Castle, and we got ourselves a new star. And you don't have to have Shotzi hold the title forever. It's just maybe you can transition to if we ever bring back the damn tag titles, but that's a whole nother story. But I'm pretty sure the women's tag titles for WWE are gone and they're not coming back anytime soon. But I'll talk about that later. But um, yeah, you could have a Ronda Shotzi tag team. They're both faces, and now you don't have to have Ronda going for the title all the time, and someone else can get it after maybe turn Raquel heel, give her sharp edges back, and roll from there. Like, it's not that hard. Like, also, if you listen to my NXT 2.0 reviews, Toxic Attraction, who have held the women's title and the women's tag title. It's a trio: Mandy Rose, Gigi Dolan, the former Priscilla Kelly, and JC Jane have held all the gold for like 10 months in NXT 2.0. And I have no clue why they haven't been, especially with SmackDown having such a low um, roster right now with Sasha and Naomi leaving, and then there was Charlotte going on vacation, and just they haven't really. So then they were forced to actually feature these women that they abandoned and for no reason whatsoever after getting called up from NXT almost a year ago to the day. And I'm talking about Shotzi, Xia Li, and Aaliyah, who are all like that's almost half of your SmackDown's available roster right there. And those are three women that were all they all dropped the ball with feature. They would feature them for like 2 weeks, and then you wouldn't see them again for 2 months. How Of course they're gonna be thought as of junk if you treat them like junk. You have to treat them like they're actually good. Remember the amazing Xia Li vignettes with the comic book style explaining that she was the protector? That was some of the best stuff WWE has produced in a long time, as far as those vignette debuting a new character. And it led nowhere. We didn't get to see Xia Li do anything. I don't understand it. And now they're forced to feature her to the point where on Raw this week, Byron Saxton is explaining is going down the card, running down the card for Money in the Bank, and he's like, yeah, and then in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Wait, no, it was for the main event of Raw was a six-way title or a six-way match for the qualifier for the Money in the Bank, and he gets the Xia Li after listing out the six people in this match because Xia Li and Shayna Baszler came over from SmackDown to be in this match. It was a last chance qualifier. That's uh, Becky eventually won easily, by the way. Becky just destroyed everybody in that match. But anyway, Byron Saxton's reading off the. First of all, how does he not have it written down in front of him? And second of all, how do you not know Xia Li's name? I understand you're a Raw commentator, but come on. And that just goes to show if the Raw commentator doesn't even know Xia Li's name when he's trying on live TV to read out the list of people in the Raw main event tonight, then how do you expect Jim Bob from Alabama and Joe from California and Steve from New York to know who Xia Li is. That's the freaking point. It's not me getting mad at Byron Saxton for not watching SmackDown. It's me getting mad at WWE for not. You remember how amazing her. I don't understand it. And then she had a good run in NXT. It's not like we've seen Xia Li. She can wrestle. She has decent promos. She's got a good character. The whole Protector character was great. I don't understand it. And then it got to the point where your roster is so low that you had to start featuring Xia Li, and now Xia Li comes over the Raw for this qualifier match because you don't have anybody else. And what happens on air? There's a giant pause when we're listing off names, and Corey Graves has to come in and help Byron Saxton by saying Xia Li, because Byron Saxton's like, oh yeah, we got a six person qualifier, women's qualifier tonight. It'll be Becky Lynch and Tamina and Shayna Baszler, and then he just pauses, and then Corey Graves has to say and Xia Li. So yes, I'm a little mad at Byron Saxton for not knowing Xia Li's name, but that's the whole point. WWE is not treating any of their wrestlers like they should. How do you go from one of the most amazing vignette packages we've seen? I might even go back as far as 20 years. I'm going back to like 20 years ago, all the way till now. Think about the vignettes debuting a new character on the main roster, and even before NXT, just WWE in general. And think about those vignettes about Xia Li and how it was comic book style and had cool special effects and the whole character was fleshed out. And from what I know, it was slightly based on real events. So we're not just like blowing smoke up your ass. These are kind of real things that we're talking about. And unlike the completely cringe stuff we got from Lacey Evans, where it should have had a trigger warning, and we're yes, I understand Lacey Evans went through a bad stuff, but do we need 4 straight weeks? Maybe it was even 5 of her just explaining how she was abused after this and abused after that, like just to this point where that's not the way to do it. But here's WWE taking kind of thing where Xia Li had a similar situation. I'm not comparing the two. Let me tell you that right now. But what I am saying is they took the Xia Li situation, had this comic book style thing where she's now like a superhero with martial arts and thunder and lightning and like all that. And then they have her wrestle like once in like a 2-month span. And go back to the Royal Rumble, guys. You remember how many people we brought into the Rumble? Sure, it's nice to see like Kelly and Melina and like even people like Michelle McCool did pretty good in that match. But you know who didn't have who they couldn't find a spot for in the Royal Rumble? 30 women. And we got to bring in like 10 legends to fill it out. Xia Li. Now I don't know, maybe she had to go on vacation, maybe she was injured. Who knows? But Xia Li was not even invited to the Royal Rumble a few months after her amazing vignettes where she showed up a couple times to protect I think it was Aaliyah from Natty. Remember that was when Aaliyah got featured real quick when she had the Aaliyah 316 shirts. And I remember a lot of people kind of getting behind Aaliyah. Or no, it was the 317 shirts because she beat Natty. Out of nowhere, we're told Natty has 3 world records and she's going for her 4th. She wants to be the fastest to win. And all of a sudden, of course, in the same episode that we bring all that up, Aaliyah wins in 3.17 seconds to win a new world record. And that's how we kind of debut. Like that wasn't the first time we saw Aaliyah, but that was her big breakout story. And they even released a t-shirt. And I'm assuming they sold, it wasn't like a freaking Morbius, it's Morbin time type box office dud. I'm sure they sold a few. It's not like hotcakes, but I'm sure they sold a few. And then where did they go with that? She was never featured on TV again for months. At least Aaliyah got in the Royal Rumble. And then who's the other one on that group? where they effed up completely these 3 women on the SmackDown roster? It's Shotzi. So they bring Shotzi up. She was tag teaming in NXT with Ember Moon. They bring Shotzi up and they tell Ember Moon to get like excited. They get Ember Moon excited. She even goes and changes her hair and gets a makeover and maybe even new gear and stuff. And all of a sudden they go to work and they find out, yep, Shotzi is going up to SmackDown. Her tag team partner is going to be Tegan Knox, who they really haven't established as a tag team in NXT. The established tag team in NXT was Shotzi and Ember Moon, and they were great together. They rode out on Shotzi's little tank, which, by the way, they took away Shotzi's tank almost immediately on the main roster. They fired Shotzi's new partner, Tegan Knox. They took away her tank. They made Shotzi a heel, which, yeah, Shotzi could play a heel, but she's a way better babyface, especially when you're trying to establish her character. But your character is like a ballsy to the wall, like no care, like kind of heavy metal type chick, like which Shotzi is gonna impress a lot of people. If they haven't watched Shotzi or don't know what Shotzi's all about, Shotzi is going to impress a lot of people in this Money in the Bank ladder match. And I almost fear for her safety because Shotzi has no fear when it comes to doing crazy bumps like that kind of environment. So tomorrow, that's gonna impress a lot of people for sure. But yeah, I mean, just think about how they screwed everything up with those 3 women alone. That's just and you want to wonder why Sasha and Naomi walked out. They were in those locker rooms. Remember? Sasha and Naomi were on the SmackDown locker room and they had to watch Xia Li, Shotzi, Aaliyah. After let's just not even think about anything that happened other than like before 8 months ago. All of that aside, just think about what happened in the last 8 months. And Sasha and Naomi were watching all of this happen right in front of their eyes. And then what happens? Oh, we hear rumors. What was it? 3 weeks before Royal Rumble came out. I even remember I was mad at myself. I should have placed a bet. I have a strict rule. I'll never bet on anything, let alone professional freaking wrestling, which is ridiculous. But the news came out. Ronda Rousey is going to come back and she is going to be in the Royal Rumble. Well, if Ronda Rousey's in the Royal Rumble, that means she's going to win it. You know that. So if you had looked at the betting odds before they changed a few days later, before that news came out, the betting odds would have got you like for every $1 you put down, you would have got like 100 back. But yeah, out of nowhere, Ronda Rousey's back. She wins the Royal Rumble. She win. She somehow didn't win the title at WrestleMania, but she won it a month later. That was supposed to be Sasha's match. That's why a long list of things. Ronda coming in, and then we've all seen what Ronda's done since she came in, and nobody's gonna take away. Nobody's ever gonna say Ronda's bad at wrestling or is gonna have a bad match. But what they will say is she Ronda Rousey does not look like she wants to be there. She doesn't have any passion whatsoever behind anything they have her do as far as promos or segments. She's good in the ring, yes. And she can always go in the ring. And when it comes to the ring, it's good. But like that WrestleMania match wasn't great. The WrestleMania Backlash match was better. But now it's just like almost like the Roman Reigns thing and Brock Lesnar thing all over again. We've got another title held hostage, another top spot held hostage by a part-timer MMA. And like Brock Lesnar I love, but Ronda Rousey is no Brock Lesnar. Especially when it comes to the character slash promo work. Ronda Rousey is terrible. Cringe, channel change inducing, terrible. but she has name. So the news came out, speaking of names, just announced today, Logan Paul has officially signed with WWE. I don't know what that means because we've already seen him at WrestleMania and it was teased on Raw that he'll be at SummerSlam. But what does that mean? Are we going to get Logan Paul on a monthly basis, weekly basis, bi-weekly basis? So what is this? What is WWE going to become? We already know it's not pro wrestling. That's why we all loved Forbidden Door so much. That's pro wrestling. But is WWE literally going to become what we all have been mocking about WCW? And you know what I'm talking about if you were there. David Arquette as champion. Is WWE going to become Bad Bunny and Logan Paul and Cardi B and like other celebrities coming in that can wrestle a 5-10 minute match without getting killed, and those are the stars, quote unquote, and those are the champions? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, what happens when Vince leaves and like Disney buys it? They're just gonna lean into that even more. Look at what Disney's done with all these like teenagers, like um just use them and abuse them and throw them out and move on to the next one. So WWE just, I don't know. It's so weird. The whole thing is so weird how they're just like the top dogs but yet hate wrestling. And then there's the rest of us that love wrestling out here, ROH and TNA and now AEW and New Japan and Rev Pro and whoever else X. It's just so weird that the top dog of everything that hates pro wrestling. And does that even change if it goes to a Disney? Do they love pro wrestling, or do they just see it as an entertainment thing, a live show, a circus? So if WWE gets sold, is it just going to be treated as literally a circus, a traveling circus, which it is? Let's not kid ourselves. That's what Vince has turned it into. But like we had hoped, the new with the news coming out last week. Oh, the is Triple H going to return to take over NXT and it'll be black and gold again? Like, is Triple H ever going to have that kind of power? That's why we need to support like Tony Khan, and we need to support like New Japan and Stardom, and like Sasha Banks and Naomi for walking out. Don't vilify them. They're martyrs for the cause of professional wrestling. And the reason people go to WWE is WWE has the money, so they can kind of like a Shinsuke Nakamura. He can go there and wrestle a lot lighter style than he used to, and save his body maybe another 5 years by wrestling a lighter, not quite as physical style. Fans of Shinsuke Nakamura have stopped watching Shinsuke Nakamura ever since the low blows against AJ, and they never came back. Like the ones that loved him in New Japan, because this is the bastardized version. But that's because Shinsuke's just here to make his money at the end of his career, so they can have his grandchildren and go to college, kind of deal. You know what I'm saying? And extend your career by like 5 more years while getting money in that 5 years and more money than you would have while also killing your body. That's the position WWE finds themselves in. And it's more and more so looking like AEW might have the money to actually compete with people. But then it becomes the whole, well, then did they push their bodies too much in AEW? I don't really want to bring up the Jeff Hardy thing, but let's look at it. I mean, clearly Jeff Hardy wasn't quite straight in the mind when he left WWE, because how often we've heard so many stories in the wrestling world about drug use and crazy things happening, but how often have we heard of like someone walking out of a match, whether it was televised or not, and just leaving through the crowd, like not even through the back? I'm sure there's been plenty of people that have left a match and walked through the back curtain, maybe not up the stage, but through the side of the stage, you know what I'm saying? But to walk through the crowd, like through the atrium and just leave the arena, maybe call an Uber or whatever, which I shouldn't say call an Uber. That's all Jeff Hardy had to do to avoid jail. But anyway, I mean, it's a touchy situation, I should say, because and it kind of brings it down. But how much do you want them to kill their bodies over? You gotta weigh there's gotta be some even ground because everyone saw it. Tony Khan, and we don't know if Tony Khan was the one saying, "Hey Jeff, we need you to jump off this ladder." Hey Jeff, we need you to jump. See this cool ledge? We need you to jump off that. Or was it just Jeff saying? We've heard Jeff in interviews before say Jeff Hardy said he hates a regular wrestling match. He loves when it's like a crazy gimmick kind of match, and that's what he thrives off of. So it was probably Jeff saying to Tony that, "Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. Do you think this would be cool?" And Tony be like, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you feeling all right?" And then after like three times it happens, Jeff, are you sure you don't really have to do this? And Jeff's like, "No, I'm cool, man." And then over medicates himself with his demons, which is alcohol and drugs and stuff, and ends up where he was. So I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but it's about this. It brought it back to the whole Forbidden Door thing and professional wrestling versus WWE and the fight against the establishment. And WWE is the establishment. They've taken every dirty road, and by they I mean Vince has taken every dirty road possible to completely monopolize the sport of professional wrestling to the point where he now owns the top spot and now doesn't call it a sport and calls it entertainment. See how weird that is? And that's why we're in this weird situation we live in today. And WWE is masterful. Like, look at the BS we got on Monday Night Raw with the John Cena 20th anniversary. And yeah, just again, you can look at the figures. I think they sold 5,000 to 6,000 more tickets in Laredo, Texas, than they already had when the John Cena announcement came out. Even if you deflate that by 1 or 2,000, saying, well, some people don't buy tickets until it's like 3 or 4 weeks before the event, but still, John Cena clearly showed that he was a draw, and I don't doubt that because WWE, if you remember, I lived through it all. Did pulled every trick in the freaking book to make sure they had one superstar, like they did with a Hogan, and like Austin came in and did it organically. And it wasn't even Hogan was already a star when he came in, but Vince was in a bind. He had already he had monopolized everything. He saw this guy. So like Cena came in '02 because remember it's the 20th anniversary. So it's like 1 year off of buying WCW. ECW's gone. Vince owns everything. There is no more territories to get youngsters from and already made stars established into your company, which kind of goes back to what I was saying. Now they might just go with celebrities like a Logan Paul versus Bad Bunny for the WWE title at WrestleMania. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what we see going forward. But in the meantime, it was just way too much. It's just way too much, man. But it's still like you got to think like you got to go back to that. Like, I mean, what really made Benoit like now I'm bringing up Benoit. What really made Benoit do his thing? We all love Benoit style, but we could all kind of think, well, the brain injuries took him in. So, do we really want this high impact style? So, we really need to find a balance between the two, between the WWE bastardizing the sport to the point where it's like not even a sport whatsoever, and like people killing themselves, um, like how Shibata got hurt with the headbutts and Kenta Kobashi and stuff like that. And there's been other things where they were some of the regarded as some of the best wrestlers ever, but the toll took it on their bodies so damn much, and that's probably what happened to Benoit as well. There's still no excuse, but and I'm not excusing anybody for anything, but I'm just saying there has to be some kind of balance. Like for me, I like Lucha Underground just as much as I like a New Japan. Like New Japan, or at least they used to take it more like seriously as a sport. Whereas like Lucha Underground clearly like winks at you and lets you know like this is no different than watching Breaking Bad or Lost. You know, it's a television show. Or for any you anime fans, um, Lucha Underground is basically a live action Yu Yu Hakusho. When they go into the dark battle arena or whatever it was called, I think I got the name wrong, but when it was the big tournament, and basically like that's Lucha Underground, and it's basically real life anime, which we need more of that in for sure. But even Lucha Underground, they did so many crazy things. I don't know how they survived, and we never saw it live, so we don't know how many things were messed up or whatnot. But it truly showed you didn't have to be a live circus to have a great professional wrestling show. So truly, I don't know where the answer lies, but it's so great that Tony Khan has created a second company. Because, like I was saying, with what I was getting at with the Cena thing is Vince McMahon saw there was nowhere to get stars. Here's a guy, and like he was what Vince wanted in a guy. He wanted them A to look like he could be marketable and successful, and B he had to be able to talk. And we all know Cena is really even I'll admit one of the greatest talkers that there was. I mean, I'm not gonna say he's better than Roddy Piper or anything like that, or if CM Punk can out talk Cena by far. Cena just knows how to kiss ass and really be that baby face that kisses ass. So, but Vince was somewhat of a genius when he decided, well, there's nothing, and it's that's why he's such a fucking evil genius, man, because it drove a lot of people away, but it guaranteed, so everybody that thought of that, basically everybody that watched real sports like football, basketball, and they watched WWE were all gone. And some of it was I heard a good not rumor, but like theory that when Stone Cold Steve Austin turned heel and shook hands with Vince McMahon at WrestleMania 17, that was basically like everybody that was watching knew this shit was fake, but when Stone Cold like shakes hands with Vince McMahon after all these years and after everything that's happened, like then they were gone. All those guys that were like sports fans too were gone. And if they stayed around, Cena drove them away with his fakeness. So what Vince did, and it ended up being good. It's proven on Monday with all the tickets Cena sold, and I'm sure the ratings went up and stuff. Is that as long as I have one, if I can create one big superstar by having him dominate everybody, but have him also be like, oh, he's like super humble. And then they also figured out, remember when Stephanie tweeted, philanthropy is the future of marketing? Well, cue the wounded troops and the sick children with cancer. And I'm not saying that John Cena is like he still is a great guy for doing all that for the children. What I have a problem with is WWE sticking a camera in sick children and wounded troops with their legs missing. Stick that camera in their face so we can get a good shot of John Cena. Because look at him, he's such a nice guy. Meanwhile, they have John Cena beat everybody. If anybody ever beats Cena, it has to be through extreme cheating. And then it's not even like, for example, I use this as my example all the time, and you could kind of see it on Raw this week with Street Profits. Is like, for example, you could even be a baby face tag team. Like you would think you'd be far away from Cena stealing your thunder or your energy, because he's out here to like he destroys heels energies and stuff like that. Nope. Even Crime Time gets their energy steal because if Crime Time's starting to get over and really popular with the crowd organically, let's stick Cena with Crime Time with 6-man tags. And by the end of it, nobody likes Crime Time anymore, and we hate Cena even more because Cena just comes in and ruins everything. And like the first shot of Raw this weekend was or this week was Cena's new shirt, with it was in the style of the NES, the original Nintendo Entertainment System, and it was the WWF WrestleMania like um spoof on that, and it was just like Cena, do you really just have to Cena and WWE? I'm not gonna blame 100% Cena, but I'm not gonna give him 0% either. I don't know where the percentage lies in all this with like going back to the sick kids and exploiting like all this stuff. But and like of course, if Cena's told, oh, you're gonna win this match, you're gonna win that match, is he gonna say no? Of course not. But also we've got it on record like Wade Barrett, and the Nexus losing the Cena at SummerSlam, which made me stop watching wrestling for a couple years. Cena like is on record from Edge and Jericho by like fighting against that. Like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. So it's just probably getting worked up for nothing. But the main like focus was like Cena was that all end all be all, and then they tried to do it again with Reigns. We kind of like the crowd didn't accept it, and then the whole he got leukemia stuff, and then I'm not gonna comment on that, but who knows if it was legit or not. And anyway, they turned him into this heel character. Eventually, after he can't be around, he's immunocompromised with the pandemic. Then he comes back a heel and just dominates everybody. But you got to respect him. He's great. He's all that. Like, I mean, he's average. He's like above average, but he's not like a Cesaro could do everything Roman Reigns can and way better. But Cesaro was never going to be freaking world champion. So it's all about who's the best yes man, because Vince always tries to surround himself by yes men. And speaking of Vince, so the latest with the Vince stuff, we haven't heard too much news, but what has been coming out, like we were predicting, more and more of the skeletons in Vince's closet are coming out as we go. Remember, he's got a million skeletons. So this time it was a woman who footage from the Geraldo show came out with the R word that a female referee in a limo was claiming the R word with Vince. So this is just one of many, many skeletons that are coming out. Vince has 1,000 skeletons in his closet, and we'll see if that continues to affect him going forward. But yeah, it's just we don't know where it's gonna go. Like we haven't heard much out of Stephanie. We haven't heard any more news out of Triple H. The only news we've heard is basically out of WWE this week is just rumors from the mill saying that or Raj Guru, not Raj Guru, but Raj something, um, who was the original person that say Sasha left, is now saying that Sasha's been gone since June 10th, has been released from WWE, but still no official words on that whatsoever. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And let's just touch on AEW a little bit because I'm getting a little bit tired. So this isn't gonna last too much longer. But I'd be remiss if I don't just comment on how great again Forbidden Door was. How great, one of the best TV main events ever. If you didn't watch Blood and Guts, and if you're squeamish, you might not want to because there's a ton of blood, obviously in a named Blood and Guts match, but that match was one of the most intense television for free matches I've ever seen in my life. It totally delivered in every way possible. Cesaro looks like an amazing star. I can't believe WWE dropped the ball on Cesaro. Sure, he had a pretty good run and a lot of good tag team stuff, but man, they just dropped the ball hardcore. So it looks like we're gonna find out a new number one contendership. Who the new number one contender to John Moxley's interim title is tonight on Rampage, and I've been trying my best to avoid spoilers, but I think I know who it is, so I'm not even gonna comment on that. But it should end up being a pretty good match coming out of that. Whoever wins that, if it is the person I think it is, and then we've also got Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi teaming up with or teaming up to fight the Young Bucks tomorrow. So it should be a good Rampage. Smackdowns should be pretty insane. They've got pretty much everyone that's going to be in the Money in the Bank showing up, so we don't know what they're going to do. We've also got one of the things that came out on Monday is it was supposed to be Kevin Owens versus Ezekiel, and they were even teasing a third Ezekiel slash Elias brother called Elrod. So there was an Elrod mention. Ezekiel was on Monday Night Raw, but Kevin Owens was not on Monday Night Raw. And I haven't yet heard any conclusive evidence as to what happened. But Kevin Owens did go on Twitter and stayed in character perfectly, saying, well, I didn't want to go to Laredo, Texas. I hate Texas. I'm never going back to Texas, which fit perfectly with all the WrestleMania stuff. So I love that. That was definitely good. But anyway, there's still one more remaining spot left in the Raw, um not the Raw, but the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. And what Michael or what the announcers said on Raw was, "Oh, well, this KO and Ezekiel match is going to be have to be rescheduled." So rescheduled means there's only one more day that could happen. So we might see KO versus Ezekiel slash Elrod slash Elias tomorrow, or we might see like a battle royal again, or like a 5-way match or a singles match. Or here's what I think might happen: it might just remain a secret, and we'll get as a secret competitor, or not secret, but a mystery competitors. So maybe there's only like a 50% chance that that could happen. I'm assuming we'll just get KO versus Ezekiel, but you never know what's going to happen, and who really knows why KO had to miss Raw. Another person who had to miss Raw, unfortunately, was 24/7 champion Dana Brooke, who in quote unquote was in a bad car accident, but she also said in the next sentence that she'll be back soon. So it looks like maybe cars were totaled, but nobody got hurt. I've been in one of those situations where my car got totaled, but I didn't have a bruise or a scratch on my body, and neither did anybody else. So um hopefully everything's all right with Dana Brooke. She was on the second poster of Money in the Bank, so maybe she won't get this join. Another poster missed. Rhea Ripley, we found out she's been hurt ever since winning the number one contendership match. She took her foot, so she went slamming down on her back. Her foot hit the bottom rope, which ricocheted her knee into her, um, right into her chin, which knocked like teeth out and gave her a concussion at the same time. So what a freaking all in one smooth motion. Right when she was getting this big story with the Judgment Day. If you remember, this whole thing with Bianca was supposed to be a Judgment Day feud. But in the meantime, Judgment Day have been put on the back burner, and now they're recruiting Dominic. They haven't had any matches on Raw. They had one match on main event, and then this week they weren't even on main event. They were just there to they literally only showed up to the building so they could recruit Dominic, because they weren't in the battle royal either. Like, that's egregious. How do you even explain that if you're WWE? And I haven't heard one podcast bring it up. But how do the Judgment Day, Damian Priest and Finn Balor not get invited to that battle royal? You got Akira Tozawa, Reggie, R-Truth, T-Bar in this battle royal, but not Finn Balor, not Damian Priest. But then later we see Damian Priest and Finn Balor talking to the Mysterios. What the heck? I understand you don't want to me, you don't have a battle royal like that and not include them. Some people might say you don't want them to quote unquote lose the battle royal by getting thrown out. If you don't win, you lose. But to me, a battle royal is not the same as losing a one-on-one match. All you did was throw me over the top rope. You can throw me over the top rope 100 times in a regular match, and I can still beat you and win. So that doesn't mean anything to me. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't like." That's the whole reason Adam Page wasn't in the battle royal in AEW, for example. I don't buy that, but apparently that's what a lot of people buy. Like, losing a battle royal doesn't mean jack diddly. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I'm about to hit the hour. I'm getting a little tired. I'll be back with reviews tomorrow. A ton of reviews. It'll be Smackdown. It'll be Level Up, Rampage, Impact Wrestling Against All Odds, MLW, and then the next day I'll be back with NWA and Money in the Bank. So everybody enjoy your weekend, and I will enjoy my weekend with some wrestling, but I will take Sunday off and Monday until Monday Night Raw. So I'll talk to you guys again real soon. Sorry I couldn't make this wonderful wrestling podcast even longer, but I was gonna go over some of the more events in depth, but we'll do that next time, or maybe I can get another show up later on. But thanks for tuning in. Just give me that like and hit subscribe and tell your friends. And I'll talk to you again soon. Peace.